Once, there was a merchant who had known comfort, the kind of comfort that makes doors open easily and worries feel far away. His home had been busy in those days, full of footsteps, voices, visitors, and the steady rhythm of enough. He had 6 children, 3 sons and 3 daughters. And because he was practical and kind, he wanted all of them to learn. Not only how to count coins, but how to carry themselves with sense and dignity, how to speak gently, how to think clearly, how to live. His youngest daughter was called Beauty. People said she was lovely, yes, but what they remembered most was something softer than her face. The way she listened, the way she paused before she answered, the way her kindness felt quiet and real. Her older sisters were also beautiful, but they wore beauty like a performance. They liked bright rooms and louder laughter. They liked being admired. And they learned to measure days by how many people noticed them. Beauty did not compete. Beauty liked mornings. She liked the first light touching the edge of a window, the faint smell of bread drifting from a distance, the slow settling of a room before anyone spoke. She liked books too, not because she wanted to escape life, but because stories taught her how to be brave in gentle ways. Suitors came, polished men with confident smiles, people who spoke of comfort as if it were the only thing worth wanting. Her older sisters dreamed of grand titles and grand entrances. Beauty simply thanked those who admired her and stepped back. She said kindly and honestly that she wished to stay with her father at least for a while longer. And then, in the way life sometimes turns without warning, everything shifted. The merchant's fortune did not fade, it fell. What remained was a small country house far from the city, a place with plain floors and honest air, where a day's work could be seen in your hands. When the merchant told his children, his voice trembled with sorrow. He was not ashamed of working. He was ashamed that he could not protect them from change. The older sisters resisted. They spoke of friends who would help them, of admirers who would surely remain. But admiration often melts when it is tested. One by one, the city's warm smiles cooled. Invitations stopped. Doors that used to open easily stayed closed. And the older sisters who had once been surrounded found themselves alone. Meanwhile, the village people spoke differently about Beauty. She always greeted others with respect, they said. She never acted above anyone. She has a steady heart. Some offered Beauty comfort, even marriage. But Beauty refused, not because she feared love, but because she would not abandon her father when he needed her most. So they moved. The country house welcomed them with silence and simple tasks. The air smelled of earth and clean water. The mornings were cold. The work was real. Beauty rose early. At first it was difficult. Her hands were unused to this kind of work. Her muscles ached. The day felt too long. But she did not fight the new life. She met it slowly, day by day, and something changed inside her. Within weeks, then months, Beauty grew stronger. She learned the rhythm of chores and rest. She learned how a house feels when it is made warm by care. She learned that peace isn't always something you inherit. Sometimes it's something you build. When her work was finished, she returned to books and music, filling the quiet with gentle sound. Her older sisters, however, felt the country like a punishment. They slept late. They complained often. And because they could not control their circumstances, They tried to control the mood of the house instead, with sharp words, bitter comparisons, and quiet cruelty. Beauty absorbed their harshness without becoming harsh herself. She did not pretend it didn't hurt. She simply refused to let it change who she was. Their father noticed. He watched Beauty carry the hardest days with humility and steady grace, and he felt both pride and guilt, pride in her goodness, guilt that she had to grow up so quickly. About a year passed in this quieter life when the merchant received a letter. A ship, it said, had arrived safely, a ship that carried goods connected to his old business. There might be money. Not the fortune he once had, but enough to breathe again. The older sisters immediately woke up with new energy. They spoke of returning to the city. They spoke of dresses and ribbons, rings and small luxuries, as if these things would repair everything they felt had been taken. Their father listened, tired but hopeful. Then he turned to Beauty. "What would you like, Beauty?" he asked. Beauty paused. She knew money might be limited. She knew her sisters' lists were long. She did not want to stand apart, not in a way that would shame them, so she asked for something small. "A rose," she said softly. "Only a rose," not because she needed it, but because it felt gentle to ask for something that could be held, something that did not demand. Her father smiled, relieved by the simplicity, and set out. But in the city, the world was not kind. There were disputes, delays, and exhausting arguments. The merchant tried again and again, and in the end he returned with little to show for his effort, except a tired heart and the longing to see home. Home was only a day away. Then the forest took him. The forest was vast and confusing, the kind of place where one path can look exactly like another. Rain came first, then snow. Wind pressed through branches like unseen hands. The cold gathered in his coat and in his bones. Night fell. The merchant heard wolves in the distance, not close enough to see, but close enough to make him feel small. He began to fear he would not make it home. He began to picture his children waiting, Beauty keeping the fire going, Beauty reading by candlelight, Beauty looking up each time the door creaked. Then, through the trees, he saw a glow, not a sharp light, but a warm, steady brightness, like a house that remembers what it means to welcome someone in. He followed it, step by step, until a great old castle appeared among the trees, its windows lit from within. No guards met him, no servants rushed out. Yet everything seemed prepared. A stable door stood open. Hay and oats waited for his horse. Inside, a fire burned low and warm. A table was set with simple food, not lavish, but comforting. The merchant, soaked and shaking, stood near the fire and breathed. He waited, expecting someone to appear. No one did. Time passed. Hunger arrived in quiet waves. At last he ate, murmuring a thank you to whoever might be listening. Exhaustion settled over him like a blanket. He wandered through silent halls, past rooms furnished with a kind of careful beauty, until he found a bed that looked like rest. He closed the door and slept. When he woke, the storm was gone. Sunlight lay across the floor like a soft cloth. Fresh clothes waited neatly, as if someone had noticed his ruined garments and wanted him to feel human again. He looked out the window. The garden was bright and quiet. Green arches of vines, paths swept clean, flowers arranged as if someone cared for them daily. A warm drink was waiting in the hall. The merchant's gratitude rose again, gentle and sincere. After he drank, he went to fetch his horse. And there in the rose arbor, he remembered Beauty's request. The roses were the kind that looked as if they belonged to a story. Petals full and velvety, colored deep as dusk, each bloom heavy with morning dew. He reached out and cut a small branch, careful not to damage the plant. The air changed, not dramatically, but enough that his body noticed before his mind understood. A sound, slow, heavy, came from behind him. He turned. A great beast stood at the edge of the path. Large, yes. Unfamiliar, yes, but not wild. Its eyes were watchful, tired, and strangely human. Its posture held tension, as if it expected to be hated. Its voice was deep. "You were given shelter," it said. "You were given warmth, and you took something precious from my garden." The merchant fell to his knees, fear shaking his hands. "I meant no harm," he said. "I wanted to bring a rose to my daughter. She asked for it." The beast did not roar. It did not threaten with delight. It stood still, as if thinking. At last it said, quietly and firmly, "If you wish to return home, someone must take responsibility for what you took." The merchant's heart dropped. Then the beast offered a choice, harsh, but not careless. "One of your daughters may come willingly," it said, "not to be harmed, but to live here in your place. If none comes, you must return yourself." The merchant, desperate and exhausted, agreed. Before he left, the beast pointed toward a large empty chest. "Fill it with what will help your family," it said. "I do not want your children to starve because of you." The merchant, trembling, filled it with gold he found prepared, locked it, and left the castle with the weight of the roses still in his hands and the weight of his promise in his chest. His horse found the forest path as if guided by memory. And by evening the merchant reached home. His children ran to him, but instead of joy, the merchant broke down. He held the rose branch out to Beauty, as if it were both a gift and an apology. "Here," he whispered, "but you do not know what this may cost." He told them everything. The older sisters cried loudly and quickly found a place to aim their fear. "This happened because you asked for roses," they said, turning their grief into blame. Beauty listened without arguing. She watched her father's face, the tired lines around his eyes, the way his hands shook when he tried to hold himself steady. Then she spoke. Her voice was calm, not dramatic. "My father will not return alone," she said. "If someone must go, I will go." Her brothers protested. They spoke of courage and strength and fighting. But Beauty looked at them with gentle seriousness. "This is not a story you can win with force," she said softly. "And I am not going because I have no fear. I am going because I choose love over fear." That night, as if the castle kept its word, the chest appeared in their home. The merchant wanted to hide it, afraid the older sisters would demand the city again, afraid the family would be torn apart by old dreams. But Beauty, steady as ever, asked him to use it wisely, to keep the family safe, to repair the roof, to buy food, to make sure no one suffered needlessly. When the morning came, Beauty prepared to leave. Her older sisters made a show of sorrow. Her brother's sorrow was real. Beauty did not let herself cry, not because she felt nothing, but because she wanted her father to remember her calm face, not her fear. And then she mounted the horse. The road led into the forest, toward the glowing castle, toward the life she had not imagined, and toward a promise she intended to keep. As evening approached, the castle appeared again, lit warmly, quietly, waiting like a place that had been holding its breath. Beauty's hand tightened around the rose branch, and she stepped inside. When Beauty stepped into the castle, the doors closed behind her without sound. Not a slam, not a warning, just a quiet certainty, like a chapter gently turning its page. The great hall was wide and still. Light from tall candles moved softly across stone walls, never flickering too sharply, never leaving shadows too deep. Beauty stood where she was for a moment and let herself breathe. She noticed the air first. It was warmer than the forest, carrying the faint scent of wood and old books of flowers brought inside long ago. She did not run. She did not call out. Instead, she listened. The castle felt awake, not alive in a way that startled her, but aware, as if it remembered how to be quiet when someone was afraid. Footsteps sounded slow, deliberate. The beast appeared at the far end of the hall. Up close, he was still frightening. His size filled the space easily. His shape was unfamiliar to the eye, but his movements were careful, almost restrained. "You have come," he said. "Yes," Beauty answered. Her voice trembled only slightly. "You came willingly," the beast said, as if repeating it helped him believe it. "I did," she replied, "and my father is safe." "He is," the beast said at once. "He left at dawn." Beauty nodded. Something in her chest loosened. The beast hesitated, then spoke again, not with command, but with something close to uncertainty. "You may stay here," he said. "You will not be harmed. Everything you need will be provided." Beauty looked around. The hall was empty, yet prepared. A fire burned quietly. A table waited, set simply. "I will show you where you will sleep," the beast added. He turned, moving slowly enough that she could follow without fear. The room was at the end of a long, quiet corridor. Over the door, carved carefully into the wood, were simple words. "Beauty's room." Beauty paused, not because she was overwhelmed, but because the name felt strange there. Her name in a place she did not belong. Inside, the room was warm and calm. Soft curtains moved slightly with the air. A bed stood near the window, its coverings plain but inviting. Books lined one wall. Music rested on another, a small instrument, waiting. Nothing glittered. Nothing shouted. The room felt chosen with care, as if someone had tried very hard to imagine what would make another person feel safe. "You may rest," the beast said, standing near the doorway. "I will not enter without your permission." Beauty turned to him, surprised. "Thank you," she said. The beast inclined his head slightly, then stepped back. The door closed quietly. Beauty sat on the edge of the bed. Her hands shook. She let them. Fear, she knew, was not something to be fought. It was something to be allowed to pass through. She washed her face. She changed her clothes. When she lay down, sleep came quickly. Not because she was calm, but because she was deeply tired. When Beauty woke, sunlight rested gently on the floor. For a moment, she did not remember where she was. Then memory returned. The forest, the beast, the promise she had made. Her heart beat faster. She listened. No sudden sounds, no footsteps rushing toward her door. She stood, opened the window, and breathed in the morning air. The garden below was quiet and green. Paths curved gently through flowers and hedges. Everything looked tended, as if someone cared enough to keep it alive. On a small table, breakfast waited, simple food, warm drink. Beauty smiled faintly. She is not meant to be frightened, she thought. She is meant to be comfortable. She ate slowly. Afterward, she explored. The castle was large, but never overwhelming. Rooms opened one into another, with space to breathe between them. She found a library, tall shelves, filled not with showy volumes, but with books that had been read before, their spines softened by time. She touched one, then another. "I will not be bored," she said quietly to herself. That evening, as light faded into dusk, Beauty sat at the table set for supper. Her heart began to beat more quickly again. She knew he would come. She heard his footsteps before she saw him. Slow, heavy, but never hurried. "May I join you?" the Beast asked, stopping several steps away. "Yes," Beauty said, after a moment. He sat across from her. For a while they ate in silence. Beauty noticed small things. The Beast's hands were large, but he held his utensils carefully. He did not watch her constantly. He gave her space. At last he spoke. "Do you find the castle frightening?" Beauty considered her answer. "At first," she said honestly. "But not now," the Beast nodded as if he understood. "I know I am difficult to look at," he said. "I would rather you tell the truth." Beauty met his eyes. "You are unusual," she said. "But you have been kind." The Beast looked down. "Kindness is easier than changing what I am," he replied. They ate a little more, then, suddenly, almost awkwardly, the Beast asked the question that would become familiar. "Will you marry me?" Beauty's heart jumped. She set down her fork. "I cannot," she said gently. "I am grateful to you, but I cannot say yes." The Beast did not rage. He did not shout. He sighed, a long, heavy sound. "Then good night," he said. He rose and left the room, turning once as if to make sure she was not afraid. Beauty sat alone, her chest tight with something she could not yet name. The days began to follow a rhythm. Mornings were quiet. Beauty read, played music, walked in the garden. Afternoons were filled with light and stillness. She learned which rooms caught the sun best, which paths felt safest under her feet. Evenings brought supper, and the Beast. He always asked before entering. He always sat at a distance. He always spoke plainly. Each night he asked the same question, and each night Beauty answered the same way. "No," she said, "but thank you for asking." The Beast accepted her answer every time, and that, more than anything, changed how Beauty saw him. Fear faded into familiarity. Familiarity softened into something else. She began to notice his patience, the way he listened, the way he never tried to frighten her into agreement. She found herself waiting for his visits, not eagerly, but without dread. One afternoon, as Beauty stood near a tall, polished window, she noticed her reflection. And then, beyond it, something more. The glass caught light, strangely like water held still. For a moment, she saw her home. Her father sat alone at the table, his shoulders slightly bent, his hands folded in front of him. Her sisters moved about the room. Their faces were sorrowful, but Beauty sensed something else beneath it. relief perhaps, or guilt. The image faded. Beauty stepped back, her heart aching. That evening she spoke to the beast. "I have seen my father," she said quietly. "He is lonely." The beast listened without interrupting. "You may visit him," he said at last, "for a short time." Beauty looked up, startled. "You would allow that? I would not keep you here against your heart," the beast replied. "But you must promise to return." "I promise," Beauty said. The beast nodded. "Rest now," he said. "Tomorrow will come quickly." That night, Beauty slept deeply. She dreamed of the garden. In her dream, the beast lay on the grass, his breath shallow, his eyes closed. "You forgot me," he said, without anger. "I waited." Beauty woke with tears on her cheeks. She knew then, not with certainty, but with understanding, that she had stayed too long. She prepared at once. She placed the ring the beast had given her on the table, closed her eyes, and rested. When she woke, she was home. Days passed too quickly. Her sisters begged her to stay. Her father clung to her hand. Beauty felt torn between comfort and promise. On the 10th night, the dream returned, clearer this time. The beast lay still, the garden silent around him. Beauty woke with resolve. "I cannot stay," she said aloud. "Not now." She placed the ring down once more. The castle returned around her like a held breath released. Beauty ran through the halls, calling softly. She found him by the garden's water. He lay pale and unmoving. She knelt, pressed her hand to his chest. His heart still beat. "Please," she whispered. "I am here." The beast's eyes opened. "You came back," he said. "I did," Beauty answered, "and I will not leave again." Something changed then, not suddenly, but deeply. Beauty knelt beside the beast for a long moment after his eyes opened. She did not speak right away. She listened to the rhythm of his breathing, slow and uneven, as if he had been holding himself together by will alone. The garden was quiet. No wind moved the leaves. The water lay still, reflecting the sky without disturbance. "I thought I had lost you," the beast said softly. "You didn't," Beauty replied. Her voice was steady now. "I was the one who forgot what mattered." The beast closed his eyes again, not in pain, but in relief. Beauty stayed beside him, her hand resting lightly over his, as if touch itself could remind him that he was no longer alone. They did not rush inside. They did not call for help. They simply stayed until his strength returned enough for him to sit, then stand. When they finally walked back toward the castle, their steps were slow and unhurried, as though both understood that nothing needed to be forced anymore. That evening, they sat together in the great hall. The fire burned lower than usual, casting warm, gentle light across the stone walls. They ate little. At last, Beauty spoke. "I once believed love had to arrive suddenly," she said, with excitement, with certainty. The beast listened without interrupting. "But now I understand," she continued, "that love can also grow quietly. It can arrive through patience, through listening, through staying even when it would be easier to leave." The beast looked at her carefully. "You do not owe me anything," he said. "I never wanted gratitude, only honesty." Beauty nodded. "I am being honest," she replied. "I care for you not because I must, but because I choose to." The beast's breath caught. He did not reach for her. He did not speak at once. Finally, he asked, not as a demand, but as a question offered gently into the space between them. "Will you stay?" Beauty answered without hesitation. "Yes." The change did not arrive with noise. There was no sudden brightness, no shaking walls, no sense of something breaking apart. Instead, warmth spread through the room. Subtle, steady, like dawn moving slowly across the floor. The beast felt it first, a release, as if something he had carried for a very long time was finally set down. Beauty noticed the air shift, noticed how the space around them felt lighter, less burdened. She looked at the beast and saw his form beginning to change, not abruptly, but as if the heaviness he carried was gently lifting away. When the warmth faded, the beast was gone. Before her stood a man, tall, unfamiliar, his expression open and uncertain, as though he were seeing the world anew. Beauty did not step back. She did not gasp. She simply looked at him with the same calm attention she always had. "You're still you," she said quietly. The man smiled, tentative but real. "Yes," he answered. "I think I always was." They spoke little that night. There was no need to explain the past in detail. No need to name every hardship. What mattered had already been understood. The castle felt different. Not brighter, but lighter. Rooms that once seemed too large now felt open and welcoming. The garden breathed again, not because it had been waiting for magic, but because it had been waiting for care. In the days that followed, Beauty and the man walked the grounds together. They spoke of simple things, of books, of mornings, of how silence can feel kind when it is shared. Beauty noticed that nothing essential had changed. He was still thoughtful, still careful with his words, still patient. Only now, he no longer hid himself. One morning, Beauty stood by the window and thought of her father. She did not feel pulled between worlds anymore. She felt connected. "We should bring him here," she said, "not because he must come, but because he should be welcome." The man agreed at once. "He has always been welcome," he said. "We simply did not know how to say it before." When Beauty's family arrived, there were no grand announcements, no spectacle, only open doors. Her father stepped into the hall slowly. His eyes filled with relief. "You are safe," he said, holding Beauty close. "I am," she answered, "and I am home." Her sisters stood nearby, uncertain. Beauty greeted them without bitterness. She did not forget the past, but she did not carry it forward either. Time, she knew, would teach what words could not. Beauty did not become important overnight. She did not seek admiration or ask to be placed above others. She continued to live as she always had, with attention, with kindness, with quiet strength. The man beside her learned it as well. That leadership could be gentle, that listening mattered more than being impressive, that care, once given freely, has a way of returning. The castle became a place people spoke of kindly, not as a place of wonder, but as a place of warmth. And so the story settles, not into perfection, but into peace. A house that once felt lonely now held quiet laughter. A heart that once hid behind fear now rested in honesty. And somewhere beyond the forest and the road, a village continued to wake slowly each morning, unaware that its gentlest daughter had helped teach the world what kindness can become.